Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Leticia Komarokumar from School of Education, Department of Education Planning and Management. I'm here to share our work titled Evaluation of the Implementation and Fidelity of the Lower Secondary School Curriculum in Uganda. This is a concept paper. It's work in progress. So we are three of us doing this work together with Dr. MUSISI Wilson and Dr. Romeo Joseph. Basically, this study is looking at how well the competence-based curriculum is being implemented in the lower secondary. Or is the curriculum being implemented as intended? So that is generally a key question when we are talking of fidelity of implementation. So we are all aware that as a country, we have shifted from teacher-centered curriculum to teacher-centered curriculum, where the main focus in this curriculum is learner-centered. And we are looking at improving the critical thinking, practical skills, problem solving to the learners in a bid to achieve the needs of the 21st century. Irrespective of these good intentions, I think you'll agree with me because the findings are indicating are very clear that the implementation of this curriculum is facing a number of challenges. So this made us to have a question. Is this curriculum being implemented as intended? So that is the gist. So we are seeing that there is a gap between the policy intentions and the classroom practice. So there is evidence in the literature as far as these gaps are concerned that the training of teachers is inadequate, resources, IT, books and so forth are inadequate, weak infrastructure and so forth. So literature is clear and the scholars have written a lot about it. What we saw was not that clear is the assessment of the fidelity of implementation. To what extent is this problem? So we found that there is limited empirical gap as far as this area is concerned. That's why we came in with this study. So the purpose of this study basically is to assess the CBC curriculum implementation fidelity. Specifically, we are going to evaluate the structural fidelity of CBC. So what do we mean by structural fidelity? We are looking at the extent to which the core components of the curriculum are they implemented as intended? Is the content implemented as intended? Resources, the schedules, and so forth. So that is what we mean by structural fidelity. So we are also assessing the instructional fidelity. So we know the focus is learner-centered. So we have a teacher implementing this curriculum. The pedagogy, is it learner-centered? So we are going to use the tools to assess the instructional fidelity. Then we shall look at students' engagement, the active learner participation, learner involvement in the curriculum. So in addition to that, we shall also identify challenges facing the implementation of this curriculum and opportunities that are available for the successful implementation of the curriculum. So those are the research questions, basically derived from the objectives. This study will be guided by the framework process fidelity by Century 2010, and according to Century, he suggested, and others, Century and others suggested that when we are measuring fidelity, we look at those three areas: the structural fidelity, instructional, and student engagement. When it comes to methodology, data will be collected. We shall have both quantitative and qualitative data. We shall collect them simultaneously, analyze the data separately, and integrate the data during the interpretation. We are carrying out this study in our history districts. Our participants are teachers, administrators, and students. We expect to have we have a sample of 327 teachers for our questionnaire, 15 teachers, 5 administrators whom we shall interview, and some focus group discussions. So we shall use questionnaires, interviews, and focus group discussion guides. The findings for quantitative, we shall have usually descriptive statistics, means, percentages, frequencies, standard deviations, and so forth, and the thematic analysis. So we are using a combination of methods to strengthen the validity of our findings, and as well to have a deep understanding of the problem. This is what we expected from this study. As I told you, it is a concept study. We are still carrying out this study. So the evidence we obtain, it will help us on implementation fidelity to understand the extent. Where are we as far as those areas are concerned? What are the gaps between the intentions in the policy and the practice as far as the implementation of the curriculum is concerned? It will inform stakeholders, including teachers, more especially in the training programs of teachers. And the recommendations, we expect that they will help to improve curriculum delivery. The study is important because it supports our national and international expectations. I can conclude by saying that when we have reforms, like the CBC reforms, they don't guarantee implementation. So there's a lot, we have good ideas, what really happens as far as implementation is concerned. So it's very key to monitor the implementation and understand the status, what exactly is happening. And once we have the fidelity that we are doing the work as per the intended design, I think now the university we are moving as well towards that. So that one will determine our success. And this is study will identify gaps and solutions as far as that area is concerned. I would like to thank you for listening to me.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Leticia. Next is Dr. Dennis Wow. Dr. Dennis.
So, good afternoon, colleagues. So, I'm going to talk about our research that we are carrying out, and it is about exploring the spatial-temporal dynamics and also influencing factors of the typhoid disease in the Ugandan districts and also determine the patterns by predicting them using a technique we call machine learning. Now, we know that of late there is a buzzword which we call AI. And AI covers almost all disciplines and all areas. And I think almost all spheres of our lives. But we have not yet appreciated the application of AI in a number of disciplines. Now, in this study, we are looking at how we can apply AI together with its associated methods, like machine learning and also deep learning. Now, we already know that our colleagues from statistics have, for a long time, been dealing with vast amounts of data, analyzing them. But again, we can say that in the last about 2 or 3 decades, we have seen the emergence of what we are now calling data science. So it means that the statistical methods have got some limitation. So we are now resorting to what we call data science-based methods to analyze those vast amounts of data. And this is the case that happens to data that we find in healthcare units and also in the medical domain. Now, one disease that we have picked up in this study is the typhoid fever disease. Now, this happens to be a pandemic almost in the entire world. Despite advances in its treatments and also advances in the technological diagnosis of this typhoid disease. Now, it is also observed that at times it is drug resistant. That is why we see many outbreaks within a number of areas globally, but also within our local setting, like Uganda. So, in Uganda, we notice that medical professionals have actually properly diagnosed the fever associated with the typhoid, and they have also treated this typhoid disease successfully. But there is one area where they are falling short. Now, when you look at the data that is collected by health units and also within the medical domain, this is a lot of data. We have got lots of electronic health records collected. We have got a lot of what we can call medical resonance imaging data that is collected from medical equipment like X-rays, like scans, and so on and so forth. Now, this data needs to be properly analyzed if we are to help to predict the outbreak of such diseases like the typhoid. Now, we have also observed that typhoid disease is spatiotemporal in nature. So it means that it occurs in certain areas, certain regions, but it is also time dependent. So in this work, we are going to look at the spatiotemporal study of the typhoid disease. Now, healthcare and also the medical domain has seen a lot of advances in AI and also application of AI and data science within their domain. Now we are picking up from there so that we can at least help them to predict some of the diseases so that they can at least have some preparedness and also planning strategies so that they can counter such occurrences. So, in our study, we got our data sets from 3 organizations. The first data set was got from Ministry of Education, rather Ministry of Health, not Education, Ministry of Health. because we noted that over a number of years, they have been collecting data about this typhoid fever outbreaks in a number of districts in Uganda. And the period we decided to concentrate on is from 2018 up to 2024. Now, the second data set was obtained from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority, because we know that we have got some climatic factors that do affect the outbreak and also the spread of this typhoid disease. Then we also got some data from UBOS, or the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, to study the environmental factors and also to explore more about the patterns. Now, our study had 4 objectives. 1, to establish the so-called hotspots of the typhoid disease within the Uganda for that period 2018 up to 2024. Then also to determine the factors that do influence the prevalence of the typhoid disease. And 3, then to design the AI, or the machine learning based model that can predict accurately the occurrence of these outbreaks in a number of districts in Uganda, and then to evaluate the effectiveness of this designed model. So we use a number of methods, but for interest of time, I may skip those methods and I go to the study design. So we use the retrospective longitudinal design in our study so that we can look at the surveillance of the typhoid disease within a number of districts in Uganda. So I've already mentioned that the nature of the typhoid disease is spatiotemporal in nature, and one data set that we got from Ministry of Health captures this nature of this disease. So health centers 2, 3, 4, up to the maybe district hospitals, referral hospitals, regional referral hospitals, and national referral hospitals have been collecting all this data which is spatiotemporal in nature. So this is the first set that we concentrated on in this study. So when it comes to artificial intelligence, and if we are to apply the different methods of artificial intelligence, we need to look at that data set and get what we call the training data set and also the test data set. So we already got this data set from the Ministry of Health. So we split it into those 2 subsets. 1, to train our model, that's the AI model, and then 2, to also test it in order to try to evaluate the effectiveness of that model. Now, we used a number of models, machine learning models, to construct our machine learning model. And we used a technique called the ensemble modeling. Now, these models include the ridge regression, also the extreme gradient boosting method, that is XBoost, and also the light gradient boosting method. We also use the random forest machines and also the long-shorted term memory models. Then we needed also to find out whether we can use linear models or nonlinear models. But when we checked our data that we collected from the Ministry of Health, and after analyzing it, it was discovered that for some districts we can have linear data, and for some we do have nonlinear data. Now, to get these hotspots, to determine the instances of the typhoid disease in these districts, we have to also look at GIS. So we have to look at geomapping. So what we have here is a diagram that shows how typhoid disease occurs or breaks out in a number of districts in Uganda. So we captured, according to the key, the different ranges of its occurrence in the eastern, northern, central, western regions. So this is by using geomapping or GIS. So here I'm only showing 2 years because this data is captured annually by Ministry of Health. So I'm only showing the 2018 and also the last year, which is 2024. Now, when it comes to results, we note that after analyzing our data, we note that the outbreak of typhoid disease occurs mainly in urban areas, as shown here in these results. Here we note that we have got high occurrences of typhoid disease in urban centers like Kampala, Mukono, Wakiso, and Uganda. Now, also, when we bring in another concept to try to mine deeper, we notice that during rainy periods, because now we are looking at the factors that can contribute to these outbreaks, we notice that, for example, for Kampala district, within the month of around April to May, that is when we have got the highest outbreak of the typhoid disease. Now, we also determined the performance of our designed AI or machine learning model using the well-known statistical metrics like the root mean square error and so on and so forth. Now, what is striking here is that although we use the ensemble model consisting of 5 models, it is noted that it is only 3 that are performing better in the prediction of the occurrence of the typhoid. Because if you look at those values that are highlighted, they indicate that those 3 models, which we call the boost ensembles, they can predict highly the occurrence of the typhoid disease. So these include the random forest, they include the extreme gradient boosting method, and also the light gradient boosting method. The others are not as strong as these 3, the rich regression and also the long short-term memory. Now we also went ahead to determine the performance of these 4 models, but this time with respect to other metrics that we use normally in AI. Again, you can see that the results still show that the 3 models, that is the extreme gradient boosting method and also the light gradient method, the random forest machine, are the one that are outperforming the other 2. So the last set of the results also shows that when we compare the actual instances or the actual outbreaks of these whatever instances of the typhoid fever with what has been predicted, again you can see the closeness along that line of regression. So you can see that again the 3 are confirmed that they are the one that can effectively predict well the occurrence of typhoid disease. Okay, so as I conclude, I can say that AI with its associated methods can be applied well within the healthcare unit and within the medical domain. So, although doctors and professional health workers have successfully diagnosed the occurrence of this typhoid disease or typhoid fever, but they have not been able to predict the occurrence of this disease in so many districts of the country. So this model has shown that if they can use their time series data, that historical data that they have been collecting over a period of time, this time we concentrated on 2018 up to 2019, then they should be able to predict successfully the occurrence of this typhoid disease within these so-called hotspot districts. And then they will be able to make effective decision-making, policy, and also to make a preparedness planning for the outbreaks in case they occur. So thank you so much. That marks the end of my presentation. Then I'd also like to thank the competitive research, because this work is supported by the Competitive Research Grant Office, and our work is still work in progress, but this is so far what we have obtained, the results that we have obtained. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Songwao. That's valuable title. Our next presenter is Professor Jerugawa Ozraki, and is the last. Yes. Kind reminder, keep all your questions and then do it after this last presenter. So, let me kindly ask now the speakers to identify the front seats and then welcome questions. Yes, it's time now for the audience to entertain our speakers with the questions, remarks.
Thanks here for giving me this opportunity. My name is Dr. Mogi Becker, Department of Biological Science. And my question goes to, I don't remember the name, but the doctor presented on avocado leaves. Mine is the samples were from Central Uganda, so what I did, we took cultivars in consideration. Because no cultivars varied in the amount of nutrients they have. For example, beans, we know they are good in iron, but even among the bean varieties, there are differences. There are those that have enhanced iron content, for example, in beans. So I'm just wondering if you took that, the genetics, the cultivars in consideration when you are collecting your samples. Then lastly, if there's a technology they use syndicanate. If I take a concoction for selenium, why should I mind about the protein in it? Because if these guys are taking the whatever for iron, why should we mind about the protein content in it? Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Dr. I think those questions were related to Dr. Harari. Another question? This one.
Thank you, presenters. Dr. Wikiano from and Humanities. I don't know whether questions, but for Dr. Leticia, I heard you, especially in Yusa, Wakiso, study area, and talking about the population, but I wondered if schools and how you were going to select the schools. I don't know. I didn't hear about that. Maybe I missed it. Then my OG, my sister, Dr. My concern was that about the avocado seed. I don't know whether it is the dry or the fresh. When generally, or when we are talking about local dimensions, and I've seen some of them are good, but I don't see people eating vocabularies, for instance. How can you advise us? I have seen some people using it as the dry one as a remedy for high blood pressure. And there was that yellow part of it where we are saying there's something there. It's not good. So I don't know whether there is a relationship between nutritional and medicine. So it left me there. If it is raw in that something, is it very good for these people who are using it as a remedy for high blood? That was what was in my head, my science paper. Thank you.
Thank you, presenters. My name is Yendao Innocent from Languages and Education, and my question goes to the person who presented about language, Dr. Kupara, my askofu. You said that language shapes the way we think. My question is, does this go with the first language, or even there's other languages that you get? Secondly, somebody who does not use language, for example, the deaf, the dumb, does it also affect them? How does it
Ah, okay. The friends who checked in, how are you people? Hopefully you're fine. Live Nashpina in Master World and the DOD, Yanis fan. Appreciate you people. What's going on? What's taking place right now? It is the STEAM Festival. Maybe you wish to know about it. This is it. The research competitive grant theme, diversifying science, technology, innovation for community and development. Now, up there, those big words, that's the university, Chambogo University. Then also down here, it is the STEAM Festival 5th edition. That's how it is. Okay, friends, yeah, this is what I've been streaming, try to make aware. Every year in April, I always give you this. I try to move a little bit closer. Down there, that is the website, university website. Then it has an X account. It has a Facebook account down there. And it has an Instagram account. These are some of the sponsors supported by the beverages, and also that, yeah, I'll make a free advert for them since they decided to sponsor us. I'll make really I'll make for them a free service. Okay, in here, the symbol, maybe I was trying to show this out, try to check this. In here we have this, we have this, and this encompasses, okay? When you see the logo, it encompasses the brains of vast people, and that's why we end up coming up with such a logo for STEAM. In case maybe you want to find out what is really that, okay? And what is really happening. I have missed you all, my dear friends. I really do miss you, Lechan, but I'm grateful I was unofficial. Okay. Look here. All right. This is the card for my issue. But all in all, I'm grateful that indeed you made it in this live stream. It's another thing that indeed you following the account. Pinai, that's Pinai, it's really awesome, alright? It's really awesome.
And now the higher levels, rather than they're telling us to comply, to reform. How can we pick a lesson from that study to improve our compliance with this new directive? And lastly, for themselves, well, I'm so interested. I have a student who is studying the typhoid, the bacteria that cause it are called salmonella. In fact, he's in trouble with me because he's not here. Maybe I want to look for YouTube, to look for your presentation from YouTube. Because somebody want to influence his research design. And for him, he's looking at the condition of raw milk and the dairy products in causing typhoid fever. So I didn't see any parameters relating food as value into the incidences. You looked at climate and probably the incidence of the disease. But we pick these diseases from what we eat. So I don't know why you didn't consider that parameter. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think it's time for the presenters to respond to the questions. I think let us start with Dr. Paragahara Singoma with the questions directed to you.
Thank you very much. Quite interesting questions. Can I start from there? It is true, I did talk. If you see this study clearly, a strong basis for iron. Iron was a major concern, and I also did talk about the positive attributes of these. That's why we are calling them as nutrients, because the study is already biased to iron. They appear into iron as anti-nutrients. But I also did talk about their positive attributes, especially when I was talking about anti-diabetic, anti-chemo, those attributes. But to guard against this, we are talking about excessive intake. And the levels have been given per 100. I think I indicated them for polyphenols per 100 grams, how much you are supposed to take. When you go beyond that, yes, it is true, you might be addressing one thing, but you might be creating another problem somewhere. So we need to be a little bit very careful, especially about people who just, because you had polyphenols, for example, working on this, you just get mango, hibiscus leaves you take, you're likely to attract another problem in the end, unknowingly. So we need to be mindful about this. Even the food nutrients, when we are talking about them, they are those which cannot be we can be stored in the body. We talk about toxic levels. So that's in brief, that's what I was talking about. And then I had also a question about cultivars. When we were handling this avocado, our resources couldn't allow us to do all the types and then select the one which is having the best attributes. But what we did, we asked DFI to tell us the variety that was commonly used. And these results, if you visit the paper, you will see they are compared with other studies about varieties. I know very well, yes, the variety affects, the soil affects and other things, but you know, these have been discussed there. If you take interest and read that paper, you'll be able to see it in full. And then there was somebody who was saying that we are appreciating the iron in the hibiscus leaves. Is there a way we can make an advantage of it? Well, of course, when we boil some some of it was reducing, and when we dried, some was reducing. But from my personal study, which I did some time back with Moringa, where we were seeing such, we subjected to fermentation and we were able to get very good results. Perhaps fermentation could work, but even then, when we ferment, we still need to test whether the product is really, because this is not a drug, whether the product remains even attractive to people to take it. So that could be another area which could be ventured to extract this, not to lose this iron which is in the fresh leaves, because at least fermentation was showing that the negative effects are not there, were not there. And then somebody was saying, why mind about the concoction? We are not minding about the concoction. Our concern is, yes, you've taken the concoction, but are you okay? And you are attracting other things. So that's why we had to go in the lab to analyze. And when we went to protein works if you have to get your iron levels improved. There is that hemoglobin. The hem part is iron, the globin part is the protein. That's what was forcing us there. So because of what we see, we are triggered to go into the science of what is contributing to this. And we had to go to the food nutrients in the food that we know could be responsible, and we had to go to these which we labeled anti-nutrients, but I know Professor would label them differently, most likely talking because, but that's how we labeled them, and that's why we had to go there. So since we are mindful not to lose the positive benefits of the phytochemicals or the anti-nutrients and about bioavailability, that's why you saw us coming up with those ratios to see which levels could be good for us. So avocado leaves, in some countries are used as food. We've seen those studies somewhere else. And in Uganda here, I've actually seen those. I saw even a nurse doctor telling mothers to boil them for folic acid. So there is that also. There are those things, we can't run out from them, they are there. And if you have gone to some places, it is true, you've seen some of this, this powder, yes, this powder of avocado fruit being given to some people. Huh? So this I cannot say it works, but maybe there could be some signal along with these things, because we see there are antioxidants here. The antioxidants, and some of these nutrients which we are seeing in these, like vitamin C, beta carotene, they are also antioxidants. So these have a lot to inform, and so that's why we have to look at the food nutrients, the phytochemicals, actually, to see what might be behind this. But this story, there is another presentation where we've done this on controlled work. Perhaps we shall be able to present results, especially bias to iron, after we have tried them using the right model. So, thank you very much. I think I've tried to address the questions. Thank you.
The next questions are going to be answered by Dr. Nicholas Isaac Omuthwana. Maybe I can also chip in my question too, as we prepare to respond to your questions. My question is, Doctor, is the power of language universal, or it depends on context, places, or culture? Doctor, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Yendawa, for your question. Your question was, we mentioned that language shapes the way we think, and determines even the way we behave. Does that apply to the first language or even the second language? My response would be that it applies to a language that you understand. Once somebody says something, even if you haven't answered that, but you're able to understand, anybody who uses it derogatorily, it hurts. And it can cause stress. It be first, second, third. I remember one time I was in Tanzania before I learned some Swahili. And a gentleman made a comment, hey, Waganda ni weusi sana. And I was the only dark person around, actually. You know, these are Tanzanians, very light skin, but I felt, a little bit demeaned because they mentioned it when I was there. I was the Ugandan who is there and then makes that comment. I did not Swahili by then, but at least I could hear, but I couldn't respond. So, whenever you use the language, when you say Waganda, which means Ugandans are very dark, dark skin, yeah, something like that. So yeah, that is it. And the second question was, what about those with hearing impairment? Now that is even worse, because we did mention that language is more authentic at a behavior level. What you say may have an impact, but how you say it makes a greater impact. So you've been reading and see what the borders do. They bypass you and then they learn. You're something like that hurts. And there are those other obscene signs they do to you. So somebody may have that impairment, but whenever something is targeted to them, it will also affect them. You hear people say, I don't know what I did that person when he greets you and you don't respond. Just keep question, why did I do to that man? And your question, you said, is it universal? Yes, the power of language is universal. You see, every culture construes how they use a language. And you will also discover that even in those cultures that are free to use language in a little crude manner, still when it is overused, it hurts and it leads to fight. So it's ideally universal. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nicholas. Yes, the next person to answer the questions is Dr. Leticia Komarokumar.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being attentive. Managing to ask some questions for clarification. So, Dr. Roy was questioning the sampling techniques, which I did not reveal. Yeah, just I was trying to save time. But this is a mixed method research. So for the quantitative bit, we need a representative sample. What I presented was the sample which was obtained from Morgan's table. After that, we to put these schools in stratas, and we shall use stratified random sampling. And when we go to those schools to identify specific individuals, we shall use a simple random sampling. And for the qualitative part, we shall use purposive sampling. The next question was asked by a student, how effective is the curriculum? Thank you for that beautiful question. Wanting to know more. Here we are looking at fidelity of implementation of CBC. Is it implemented as intended? So that is the focus as far as this study is concerned. And we say fidelity, let me use the word fidelity is a predictor, if I'm correct, of success. So in order to be effective, we expect that the implementation is done as intended. So at this point, our interest is on the implementation. But I was also happy that this question is giving us room for more research as far as finding the effectiveness of implementation. Once these people are finished, and maybe even better after our study. Maybe we have questions. If we find there is a fidelity, we can ask a question as well. Is it effective? Are these learners solving the problems? Are they creative? Do they have practical skills and so forth? If we are to ask now, maybe we are not sure, fidelity is not there, we are not doing as per the intended intentions, we might not find the positive answer as far as effectiveness is concerned. So that is an area for another research. Lesson learned, I believe there is something to learn, because as far as the university is concerned, already what we are going to do is the same thing, only in the different context. The context of the university, maybe after some time, we implemented, even you can go to the model and you test the fidelity of implementation as far as the university is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Leticia. Next, Dr. Dennis Mguao on the exploring spatial temporal lens. Maybe, Doctor, I can also chip in my question. In your talk, you claimed that typhoid is a global pandemic. My question is, aren't you just scaring us? Is that an overstatement? Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, thank you so much. Maybe let me start by answering the question raised by Professor Mugampoza about why we didn't look at the inclusion of foods in our study. Now, when you look at the way machine learning models are designed and also the way they work, for us, we may not get the actual contaminated foods. For example, if you go out in the markets, you look at these food vendors, and also you notice that the way they are vendoring their food can also be cause for food contamination. Now, I think that is the area that for you always investigate in your food science technology. You move out, you take samples of such foods, and you take them to the labs to determine their infections. Now, for us, what we do in machine learning is to take images of contaminated foods and also healthy foods. Then we have got an area we call computer vision. That computer vision looks at those images, and we train the models using those images. Then the models can tell whether an image is from a contaminated food or a non-contaminated food. So we may not directly actually bring in that type of food. So that is how we do it. But we can still move out and take images of either contaminated food or non-contaminated food. Now, there is also actually another study that was done by one of my PhD students about what you do in food science technology. This is about detecting aflatoxins in groundnuts. She carried out a study about designing a machine learning model to detect those aflatoxins in groundnuts in, I think, Serere, Kaberamaido, and Soroti, because that is a groundnut growing area. We know it in Ghana. And she successfully actually came up with these models. But again, when you look at how the research was done, it was through those images that we are trained with these models. And the model could actually tell when you give it a contaminated image that this is contaminated. If you go to the healthy, again we say this is healthy. So that is how we do it. Then the last question about claiming that typhoid pandemic is global. Now, we have looked at a number of studies, but you find that the outbreaks are mainly within Africa and Asia. Maybe that was another stated statement. So, but most of the studies actually about typhoid outbreaks concentrate in Africa and also in Asia and also some, I think, tropical areas like Latin America. So you may not find it so prevalent in the north, for example, Europe or North America, Canada, and the others. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Edison, for this response. Lastly, we have the Innocent Mugisha. Innocent has a prayer. I have a question. Your study was on econometric analysis of efficiency. And I know, okay, used there, which is a parametric method. Can I ask you, what was non-parametric about your work? I'm sure you have used other parametric methods, but you chose the non-parametric one. What was non-parametric about your work, your study?
Thank you. Thank you, the moderator. What was non-parametric about my study? Yes, studies have employed the parametric and non-parametric, but evidence shows that when you look at there being non-parametric, it beats the other parametric in a way that for it is applicable where you have a number of inputs and outputs. And so what was non-parametric in this case is I opted for this model since I had more than one input and output. Basically, that's why I chose the Bayer model being non-parametric and its qualification for fitting more than one input and output. And again, it has an advantage of plotting on a PFF, that is a production possibility frontier. So that is any GMU or any facility which is efficient operates around.
Okay. As per taking questions, I'm out, but 20 question is in there and answers being answered. Some of people are taking photos in here. You can see that. The exhibition has following stalls, which I would like to share with you. Following stalls, different activities being done in here. Quickly, I'd like to go through them very fast, so at least you can be able to see the progress. Tomorrow I'll be taking stall per stall and I'll be sharing them to you in short videos, and I'll be sending them in, so at least you can be able to be part of the entertainment or happy people. Okay, that will happen tomorrow, and then I'll be sharing with stuff at least you can be interested in or to be part of. The grounds are clear. Hopefully you can see that. Up to the other side, that's how grounds are. I have tried my level best to try to show you all what is happening on the ground, all what is here. Friends are trying to illustrate good things that indeed you can't miss out if you're if you're at the grounds of the STEAM festival. Okay, people are presenting papers and research, which has been also part of the, and tomorrow is the final day. Final day. It has been a 3 days activity, whereby tomorrow is the last day of the activity, and my target or my plan tomorrow is to show you different activities being shared out by people on different stalls. Do not miss out. I'll be with you. Do not try to miss out the uploads. Okay, I'll be making them short uploads, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, according to how long these stalls will be, because I'll try to ask some of the questions from some people who will be exhibiting on the last day. 3 days. Be with Musisi. Have a good night. Mayongabi. Peanuts people. Hopefully you're doing great. Mangdang Umaga, those of just wake up in US. Hopefully you're doing great. Agiabe Salimanya. Say hi to the beautiful Boggy and that beautiful animal. I'm out. Bye bye for now. Ti Father, la la.